Welcome to Earth, a Love Story. I'm your host, Robin Lassiter. This is a long episode where I ramble for an hour on my road trip. Hope you enjoy. So I am driving. I don't know a lot about what I'm doing. I do know that approaching this retreat, it has brought up all of my shadows, all the ones that I can see. It's brought up a lot of fear, and that's been the past several weeks, and I've been dealing with it and watching it and moving through it, working with it, and it's all been manageable. I've had some moments that felt a little outside my capacity, but typically pretty manageable. But the journey that I'm taking down to this retreat just happens to be through like all of these past lives of mine, and in particular, and like past lives in this lifetime, right? And so in particular, the haunted house. So I think it was, I don't know, chapter 8 or 9 of my book, where I went down to live in the Adobe abode and had that really unsafe relationship and lived in that haunted house and, ultimately got sober there. But I was trying to do the math. I was trying to remember how long I was there. I think it was like 2 years. I think it felt a lot longer than that. But I just am driving through all of that. And it's like I can just see ghosts everywhere. And I've been back here since that time. When I came back from Hawaii, I drove back here and I drove around to like every spot. I drove past the old house. I drove past like the bar that I used to shut down and made an ass of myself. I drove past where the trauma happened, and I cleared it and I looked at it and I worked to not let it stay with me. I really wanted to let go of it, and I did. And that was 6 years ago. So on this trip, I really didn't expect all of this to come up, but it is so present with me on this drive. It's like a gauntlet of past relationships and past hell realms, just fucking hell realms. Like, this was the darkest period of my life, and it's not just one spot on the drive. Somehow it's like it's an 8-hour drive, and as soon as I got kind of well into New Mexico, Wagon Mound was the first place that I was like, oh my, just fuck, So it was like Wagon Mound, and then Las Vegas, New Mexico, and like Bernalillo and Santa Fe, Bernalillo, Albuquerque, Los Lunas, Belen, Socorro, Truth or Consequences. It's just the whole drive down is painful memories, really, really painful memories that I thought I'd let go of, or that I thought I'd come to some resolution with, and that it wouldn't hold any charge in my body. And that is not the case. I'm driving through and feeling very, it's just uncomfortable. And I remember, there's so many stories, but I remember that many times, because I made the drive from southern Colorado down to Belen, New Mexico a lot. And there's this huge hill as you're driving south from Santa Fe into Albuquerque. You just kind of come down off this big shelf of land, and it's a pretty big drop. And I had several experiences that I would drive down that hill and I would get sick. And I was always really confused by that. I would just start to feel terrible. I remember I came down into Albuquerque one time, and I was getting ready to leave, and I felt really sick and really weird, and then drove up the hill back towards Santa Fe, back towards Colorado, and just like instantly felt better. I was also remembering the time that I drove from Berlin into Albuquerque, and in front of me in the sky with my eyeballs was this like upside down city in the sky. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? And I remember it so clearly, and I was kind of looking for it today, like looking for that dimension. And I was remembering the mania that I sometimes had, that I called the good times, you know? It's like if I was really manic and crazy and on a high, getting some need met in some way that wasn't great and that was unsafe, I would just get into this like kind of manic state, and I would feel different than the really low depression and terror that I normally felt. And so I would count that as feeling good, and I was remembering all of that. It's just been crazy, and like the shadows coming up, the darkness coming up, the fears coming up, to be witnessed and healed and loved, and I'm okay. Like, it's definitely within my capacity, but it just is it's very uncomfortable. I have to camp tonight, and I just am like, where am I going to camp that I'm actually going to feel safe? Because, you know, I used to really love New Mexico, and I do love northern New Mexico, but southern New Mexico has never felt nice to me. And that's just me. Like, it's, you know, inherently just is what it is. It's not good or bad. It's just my experience of it. The Rio Grande that I'm driving next to right now. Yeah, anyway, I think I decided that I'm gonna document some of this journey in voice notes and then turn it into a podcast. So, because people want to hear this shit, right? Right? So last night, let me tell you about last night. You're getting my first voice of the day. I spent the night in my truck, and I have a camper shell on the back of my truck and a very nice twin mattress. And usually I have a pile of blankets, like really nice thick sleeping bags to sleep under, but I only brought my like 20 below sleeping bag. So it was warm enough, but it was cold last night, and I don't love sleeping in a sleeping bag because I can't move around. And my head was freezing, and it was kind of a rough night of sleep, but I did have some pretty great dreams. But I want to tell you about what happened before I got to the RV park. I like to camp remotely if I can, but I was getting in too late last night, and I found this great RV park that let me stay the night for a donation, which was lovely. So, before I tell you about last night, I just have to say, I am not happier in my life than when I'm traveling in my truck and sleeping in the back and waking up stiff and sore, and putting on my little fingerless gloves and going around my truck and organizing things and uncomfortably changing clothes in the back and feeling cold and bleary-eyed and opening the back door to my camper and seeing what's out there. because I often arrive somewhere in the dark. So this morning when I opened the back door, there were a bunch of little quails. There was like 30 little quails with those little like floppy things on their heads right outside the back door of my truck. And the first thing I did was get out and look for the UFO I saw last night. So I was driving through New Mexico. It was all this kind of hellscape gauntlet of past relationships and triggering memories. And I got past Truth or Consequences, and the landscape changed and the elevation changed. I could, you could feel that I had dropped down. Started seeing some big, flat, prickly pear cactuses on the side of the road, and it just changed. Like the sky got really low. There were these big, low, fluffy clouds full of moisture, which is always magic in the desert. And the light was different. It was very weird because whatever was going on with the light, like the tops of hills were dark and the space in between the hills was light. And I remembered that was a thing in this part of the world. Like I've seen that before, and I always want to paint it when I see it. So it changed. I came out of the very uncomfortable body feeling gauntlet of past relationship and fuckery memories, and the world became quite enchanted. So I pulled over in Hatch, New Mexico for a while, which is the chili capital of the world. It's where all the good green chili comes from. Sorry, Colorado, you lose that one. So in Hatch, New Mexico, it's really cool. All of these chilies and ristros hanging everywhere. And decided to go ahead and drive, even though the state park campground was full. And as I'm driving, it's like, I don't know how far, 55 miles or something like that. So as I'm driving, I see this thing hanging in the sky. And it's not moving, and it's not changing size. And the sun has set, but I'm chasing the sun. So the light isn't faded yet. Like I'm driving towards the setting sun. So the sky is staying lit up for a really long time, and just hanging there in the sky. Just this UFO, because I can't identify it. I cannot figure out what the hell it is. It's like not changing with the sunset. It's not moving. I'm totally focused on it. I cannot figure it out. I'm squinting my eyes. Sometimes it looks like a sphere. Sometimes it looks like a kind of cigar shape, And at one point I like blink and it disappears and then comes back. And I'm just like, fuck, this is a fucking UFO. And I'm driving right towards it. And what the hell? So for 55 miles, I watched this thing. And I can still see it, but I come into town, so the buildings are hiding it. And I like drive to the edge of town and I'm looking for it. And it finally gets dark enough and I lose it. And I'm obsessed. I get to this RV park. I get all arranged, get in the back of my truck, and I'm not all night, but like until I fall asleep, I'm Googling UFOs. Has anybody else seen it? And yeah, there's a bunch. Like there's a bunch of reported sightings of UFOs. And but I don't know, you never know. I was like, I'm curious because there was no lights. It was just a dark shape against the sky. I got out and took pictures, and you couldn't see it in the pictures, but then you could see it in some of the pictures. I don't know. It was all, I went through the whole thing. Ontological shock. I went through the whole thing. What is reality? What is going on? I had a very cold night, but not the worst night's sleep I've had in the back of this truck. So the first thing I do when I wake up is I want to know if it's still like what it was. Like, could I have seen something else that was a UFO? that would explain it. And all my windows were fogged up. So I got up, got out of the truck, looked around, didn't see anything, walked over to the little clubhouse where the bathroom and everything is, and look up, and there it is, sitting in the sky, right there. Except for now that the sun is up, it's white instead of black. And I recognize it from my Googling the night before. It is a blimp, a fucking blimp that is tethered, and it's to track illegal immigrants. It's just this massive, weird blimp. And I can't remember the name of it, but if you Google, I'm pretty sure it'll come up. It's like it looks like a cartoon drawing of a blimp. It's very weird. So that is the UFO. That was my UFO experience last night. I went through all the things. Slightly, like when I saw it, I felt slightly embarrassed for some reason, even though who could have guessed? I've never heard of such a thing. But also the experience highlighted all the things about the phenomenon, like how it freaks you out, but you really want it to be true. And the ontological shock of what the fuck is it? And what does it mean? And what is reality? And all the things. So I went through all of the things as if I'd seen a UFO. And no, a blimp. Hello from the other side of retreat. My goodness. So it was not lost on me that the episode about joy dropped while I was on retreat, and I was very trepidatious about it. I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to move yet from evolution through suffering to evolution through joy and creativity. As you may be able to tell, I'm a little sick and also a little high, a little like buzzing from the amazing experience of retreat. And what came through loud and clear in retreat is how important joy is. Yeah, and kind of without any caveat, it's important. And it was making me think about times that I tried to come into joy before I had touched bottom. And for me, that was really necessary, was to go down and touch bottom and to feel all the grief and to not apply fake joy as a mask or a cover-up of the pain. And what I mean by that is, that's what all the alcohol was. That's what all the, all the men, all that stuff, all the crazy times of my life, the grasping, the needing, the fear, the longing for rescue, all of those things were looking for a way to bypass, to get to the joy without going down and touching bottom. And that's fine, because I didn't know any better, and I've learned, and it's been this whole amazing, beautiful, unfolding teaching and mystery and years and years and years of discovery. But now that I have touched bottom, now that I'm very, very good at touching bottom, and I know that if I need to grieve, I will grieve. And if I need to feel, I will feel. And suffering taught me compassion. And I can't have one without the other. I can't have joy without suffering. I can't have true joy without compassion. And so I will never lose that. And now, really understanding that it's possible to be of great service in a world where many are suffering from a place of great joy. And I didn't think I would ever say that. I think I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at my blog on my website. I have a little blog called Ephemera where I just write things down, and I don't know when it was, but it was a while. I bet it was like 2 years ago I wrote my first little tiny essay about the call to joy, and I was just like baffled. And it's been all of that time trying to find a way to authentically feel it, because I didn't feel it for a long time, and I kind of had resigned myself to that. It's okay. I was fine, and there were definitely like lots of love and high moments and all of that, but this idea of joy felt very far away. And but I tried, and I was trying to do kind of all these hacks to get there. Meditations that were focusing on bringing, like Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm sure many of you have heard of him or have done some of his work, and it's amazing. It is amazing, amazing work. I personally believe that the one missing component to that work is just a minute to touch bottom. Like just coming into the acceptance first of whatever the thing is, really being with it, because from that place, then you can expand into joy, is what I've learned. And now I'm speaking about it like I'm a big expert on it. Because it's in my body and my bones now for all of a week or whatever. But yeah, he has a lot of meditations where he focuses on, where the idea is to generate this this feeling in the body, like this neurochemistry. I don't think that's a word, but you know what I mean. This neurochemical like reaction where you feel really good, and then the body and the immune system and everything is like, oh, we're thriving. Let's heal. Let's get better. Let's do amazing things. I did lots of things like that, and I went deeply into them, and they weren't not true. Like they were real, and I think that there's a lot of merit there and a lot to discover and like unfold and to be said for that. And for some people it is the path, but I had to go down first. But now that I have, it's like, oh, I get it. I get why music, why dancing, why laughter, why play. That's one of the things being a projector type in human design. They talk about I'm supposed to be like playing a lot, like resting and playing is my thing, which sounds so great. And I've been like, well, how do you even play as an adult? Like I just forgot. And this time has reminded me, and it's delicious. I don't know if these will ever see the light of day, these little voice recordings, but it feels like a nice edge to just speak openly and freely and see if I have the guts to turn it into a podcast episode, a little travel log podcast episode. Okay, that's all. Hi. So I slept in a parking lot. I don't know, it wasn't really a parking lot. It was a public land where there was just free dispersed camping. And because so many people are doing the thing that I'm doing, that have like a vehicle with a way to sleep in it, it was just like a parking lot. But it was a parking lot full of a bunch of people all doing the same thing, and that felt pretty good. And I felt very safe. And so I'm heading home. And but it was lovely. It was lovely. So I'm on a drive that I've made before, and I was thinking about joy.
about evolution through joy. I actually went back and listened to my last podcast episode where I talked about evolution from suffering to evolution through joy and creativity. And I was like, oh, well, I wonder what I said. I don't remember what I said. And I hope it wasn't bonkers. Or like that my view has changed so much that before I listened to it, I was like, maybe I'm going to have to take it down. But I have that thought a lot. Like, what did I say? What do I think I know? But I listened and I was like, yeah, pretty much. It was pretty good. Except for now I have a bigger handle on the joy part. It's like I understand it a little bit more because it's in my body more. And that's cool. That's really cool. So what I was thinking is that in order for us to create something new on the planet, which we have the opportunity to do, this like danger and opportunity, right? Like we're facing some sort of event horizon that we don't know what it will be like on the other side. That's what it feels like to me. And the only thing I noticed when I listened to the episode was that I think I was feeling when I recorded that, I was feeling more, a little bit more doomsday, a little bit more apocalyptic, although apocalypse just means unveiling. It doesn't, more Armageddon-y, I'll say, like more end of the world vibes. The apocalypse, I think, has happened. I think that's what we're going through right now, is this continual unveiling. But I felt a little more like, oh God, what's going to happen? And now I feel like, it just all feels, so much of what we're doing feels unsustainable. And so I do believe something has to change, and I do believe it will be changed for us. Like, I think that it will, like, something will happen and we will have to change. I think it will be evolution through suffering, probably. Because what happens in the personal happens in the collective eventually. If we're going to do something different on the planet, which I think we're going to have to do, and we're building towards something is coming. That's what it feels like. I feel less doom and gloom about it than I did, but something, it feels like something's coming. And I think that one thing that is going to need to happen in order for us to get through it is that we're going to have to claim our goodness. This is what came to me when I was trying to parse out the four who are one and the crown jewel and why did I come here and what's so important about humans and what's so important about this planet. Why is it such a big deal? Like, why do these beings go to all this trouble to contact us? It seems like a lot of effort. It's like, why? And I remember thinking that. I remember being like, well, why are they talking to us? We're like the redheaded stepchild of the galaxy. Like, humans are not great. Humans are basically like violent apes with technology. And that for a long time I was like, oh, they're contacting us because we're terrifying. And that there may be a little something to that. But now what I think, my whole point, if I could get to it, is humans are actually amazing. We have capacities that we've forgotten exist. Truly. Like, as we reclaim the fullness of our humanity, I think it's going to blow the roof off this thing in the best way. So we need to get back some pride, and basically we need to work on our self-esteem as a race of creatures, as a species. The human species is special, and not so special that we should have dominion over the land and animals and do everything that we want to do because like we are these chosen things and we should go around and fuck it all up. Like, not that kind of special. A different kind of special. And so reclaiming self-esteem plus deep, dark, beautiful, ooey gooey shadow work, it's the ticket, I think. Because once we remember who we are, we can do extraordinary things in a very grounded, human, body on earth, feet on the ground, loving, compassionate way. Not like, oh my God, I can what? I don't know, travel outside of my body. I can affect things across space and time. I can communicate with unseen beings. Ooh, that's very special and exciting, but if it's not grounded in the reason why we're doing all of it, which is love, compassion, then we're like dangerous. Then it is dangerous. Then we are like monkeys with nuclear weapons or something. This is okay. So my teacher says, I love this quote. She says, we have to both wake up and grow up. Because if we grow up and don't wake up, life is sort of flat and dead. It's like, oh, we did all this psychological work. We've got this handle. We understand, but the world is still kind of dead and not enchanted or enchanting. So kind of boring. That's what I thought life was for a long time. I was like, it's not super fun. But if we wake up and we don't grow up, then we become Darth Vader. And I don't want a bunch of Darth Vaders. There already are. So there already are a bunch of Darth Vaders. And we need some Jedis, people. Really. Like, we need to wake up and grow up. And that shadow work and reclaim our self-esteem as a species. We're pretty incredible. We're pretty incredible. That's it. Hey everybody. I'm home. I made it home. I'm still a little bit sick, but getting better and better. And yeah, just wanted to land this whole travel log thingy and talk about the process of reclaiming joy and the process of reclaiming our self-esteem as a species. How to do that. I think for me, as always, it just has to be under the umbrella of love and compassion and service. I've come to terms with my own suffering, as I've talked about it a lot, and I'm okay with it. Like that was part of the problem with getting to joy, is that I'm pretty okay with my own suffering. I can bear it. I can feel my feelings. It alchemizes into something different for me, and so it's become like a precious teacher even. And also there's a time to let it go and to go on a new journey. So I'm okay with my own suffering. The suffering of others is still really challenging for me. But that alchemizes and galvanizes me as well, because it's just ever present. Truly, a day doesn't go by that I don't have direct contact with somebody who's suffering and who's reaching out and expressing that suffering. And there are things to do about it, right? Like, there are real world things to do to mitigate the suffering. I can donate money. I can offer time and resources. I can direct people to help. I can just be an ear and a shoulder and all of those things. And those things are wildly important and very valuable. And we all do them all the time. And also, the thing that for my whole life has been difficult is what to do with it. Is like, why? What's going on? What's going on? Why is why is everything hard even when it's easy? Or why do quote unquote, like, why do innocent people suffer? Why do children suffer? These questions that have been with me my whole life. And the why, I have actually my own ideas about that, and I've kind of wrapped my head around it. It doesn't solve it, knowing the why, actually. It helps. It helps to have an understanding of a little bit of the why, because it helps me feel less hopeless in the face of it all, that I actually do believe that there's an answer and a way to work with it and move through it. But what's more important to me now than the why is, what do we do about it? We do the relative things that I was talking about, like responding in the moment in ways that can help, trying to help in the moment with whatever arises in front of us. We all do that. And also there are bigger things calling. The whole system, the nature of reality on this planet, like, this is part of it. Part of it is suffering. And what to do about that, what to do about it in a bigger way than what arises in front of me day after day. And that's the call. That's always been the urgency. It's like, do something about this. And of course, can I affect things on a big scale? The only way that I've found that I can, or that makes sense to me, is to place myself in the context of what I think Perdita Finn calls long time, and what Eric Wargo calls the long self. And when I made that change from what am I going to accomplish in a single lifetime versus what can I accomplish in multiple lifetimes, because I do believe they exist. I do believe that the dead are with us, and when we are dead, we can see things that we can't see while we're living, and we have access to our long selves if we're lucky. And so the shift happened when I oriented myself in that way. What can I do over lifetimes? And it's a big deal. It's not like, it's a big ask, to choose to say, I'm going to do something over lifetimes. I'm going to choose to do everything I can, because the suffering is absurd in a lot of ways. And this is what I talked about in my book, that, again, one of the things that kind of pushed me into all of this work was this idea that there are different kinds of suffering, that there's the natural suffering that is part of the planet, that is just part of the nature of what it's like here. And it's not bad or wrong, or it actually gives life context and richness. And that is natural death, loss. That is the fact that everything grows and flourishes and decays and dies. It's just part of the natural process here. And there's enough of that. There's enough like richness in that truth to work with for all of my lifetimes, for all of the long self. But then there's this other kind of suffering, and I call it dumb suffering. And that's the kind of suffering that I can have an effect over. And I can start with myself. And then I can start working with my close circle of people, not trying to get them to do anything different, but how do I bring peace and compassion to my relationships? How do I bring peace and compassion to all of these expanding circles that I do have influence over and have some sort of control over? How do I dissent from dumb suffering? And how do I deconstruct the habit of dumb suffering in my life? And so that requires some freaking self-esteem. And it requires some self-esteem as a species to think that we can do this. And we can. There's so many beautiful stories. There are so many beautiful things that happen every single day that highlight the gorgeousness of the human spirit. I think I'm saying this to galvanize myself as well as speak what truth is coming through. We can make a difference. We can, and people do it all the time. I was listening to a Mark Maron episode. I love to listen to him, actually. WTF podcast. He was interviewing someone, can't remember who it was, but this person had lost his eyesight at a very young age. And the day that I was listening to this podcast episode, I was feeling quite sorry for myself for some reason. This was a couple years ago, and I was feeling sort of flat and bored and also afraid and struggling with how much of my, how much I should speak and who would want to hear what I have to say. And, who cares that I got sober after years of drama and chaos and pain and suffering, and who cares, right? What does my voice add to anything? And I still have that a little bit, truthfully. But I was listening to this guy talk about losing his eyesight, and he just said very clearly, if I don't do something with this, if I don't try to help other people who've lost their eyesight, then what is this for? It's it's a waste of suffering if you don't alchemize it into something that can be helpful for other people. And that's not to say that if you don't do that, that you're bad or wrong. To me, it's all about capacity, and it's all about our individual flowering of purpose and karma and all of that. I don't think that anybody has to do any of these things. I think that saving ourselves and going through our own personal journey of discovery is plenty. If there's a natural call to service after that, amazing. If there's not, don't worry about it, for real. I don't think that it's required. But for me, who's had that call my whole life to do something, it's just a great reminder. If I don't transform this into something that can be helpful and of service to others, it's like a waste, and it feels like a sin, It feels like what I'm here to do. And so regaining self-esteem and being yeah, I'm gonna be the one to do it. I'm going to be the one to say these things so that maybe someone who's going through something that's similar to what I went through or what I'm going through can feel some resonance and feel not alone. That was one of the things that kept me alive when I was not sober. I would listen to people, to people's rock bottom moments and to them getting sober and then what they did afterwards. Because addicts and alcoholics who get sober, who survive it and get sober and in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in the rooms or not, go through the steps and ultimately become of service to others are such a great example of evolution through suffering to evolution through joy and creativity. And hearing people's stories and it was almost like the harder the story, the darker the story. And if they survived it, the more brilliant the light afterwards. There seemed to be a relationship with how deep you go to how high you could go. And listening to those people's redemption stories kept me, I swear to God, literally kept me alive. And I do remember being just in the depths of suffering with alcoholism and addiction of all kinds. I remember thinking, if I ever get out of this, I'm going to tell my story so that maybe somebody else will be helped by it. And that's a different thing. That's a different kind of self-esteem than, oh my God, I'm so amazing. I'm so great. Look at me. Look at how great and amazing I am. It's for me, it feels like this internal fortitude that not only can we bear great suffering, but we can do amazing things. And it feels like I'm even a little late on this, it's past time to show up in this way and do this kind of thing. Evolution through joy and creativity for the benefit of all. It's time. And I'm figuring it out. And I have seeds of it that are in my bones and in my body, but it's a habit that I'm going to have to build. I don't wake up feeling that every day, but it feels important to start building the habit, and I have tons of tools. So I'll continue to share as it progresses. So I think I'll end this message, and it will be the last of this travel log experiment that I did, and I am gonna turn it into a podcast and see how that goes. So I'm starting to put together the course, the group teachings that were originally called the Embodied Mystic, and then I found out that was somebody's trademark thing. So now it's called something that feels more authentic anyway, which is the Bridge Collective. And it is talking about the things that I've been talking about. First, fuck you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and listen to the Evolution Through Suffering to Evolution Through Joy episode, because I break it all down. First, fuck you, touching bottom, primordial time, evolution through suffering. You know, it's like heavy, going down deep stuff. But what I found is that the more embodied I am, the more I go down, and I'm not afraid to look at the shadowy aspects of myself, the more enchanted the world becomes. The more often I have enchanted contact with the world itself and other beings and messages in dreams. And it's like all the magic, fun, enchanted stuff for me happens more the deeper I go. And it's not comfortable. Just heads up. Like, it's hard work. It's hard work. But if it's calling to you, if it feels like something that you're interested in, you can go to my website, honeyheart.org, and go to service descriptions. And then there's an option to sign up to be on the waiting list for the Bridge Collective group teachings. And I'm thinking that I'm going to start those in June. And I'm going to get out an email to everybody pretty soon who's already signed up. And if you sign up to be on the waiting list, I will offer discount. I'll do like an early bird special kind of thing. And that will also apply to my patrons and to members of the Experiencer group. So I'll offer that early registration option and discounts to all of those communities. And I say this on my website clearly. I think I've said it before on the podcast, but if you want to work with me, or if you want to be part of these teachings and you can't afford my prices, just reach out to me and we'll figure it out. I never turn anybody away for lack of funds. We find something that works for both of us. So don't let that stop you. Thank you to all of you for listening. Thank you to those of you who support my work. And thank you for those of you who reach out and tell me your stories. It really means a lot to me, and I love it and I appreciate it. Thank you to Morgan Jenks for our beautiful musical soundscapes. Always appreciated. If you would like to become a patron, patreon.com/Robin Lassiter. And I started a Substack because I'm trying to figure out how to be in the world and in the online world without it sucking all the life out of my body, without giving my attention away. This very like hot commodity of our attention can definitely really be easily funneled into this thing that never sleeps and only eats. And the internet's amazing, right? Like, it allows this, it allows me to see clients online, it allows the Experiencer group, it allows contact with friends all over the world. Like, it's an amazing, wonderful thing. It's actually neutral. It's actually like just a thing, and then whatever we make of it, we make of it. And also, parts of it are very heavily designed to capture our attention, and that is what I'm pushing back against. So I thought Substack would be a good idea, because Substack is a place that if you're into longer form reading without a lot of fast scrolling kind of thing, like if you really want to dive into something, it's a community space for that. And some of my favorite writers are on Substack, so I thought I'd give it a shot. It's going to be free for a really long time. There's an option to subscribe if you want to support me, but it's not required. Everything that I'm writing is going to be free there for a really long time. There's also a free option on Patreon. It doesn't get you access to everything, but I do post stuff that's free for people as well. So if you want to sign up for free for Patreon or for Substack, please feel free. If you'd like to subscribe to either, thank you so very much. And if you would like a one-on-one session with me or to learn more about my work, please visit honeyheart.org. Thanks, everybody.